Welcome back to another episode of TimeOut with the Sports Doctor podcast, where life, sports, and medicine intersects. We are glad that you are part of this growing community where we strive to help you strengthen your mindset, help you grow your assets, and help you achieve whatever level of success that you want for your life. Go to our website at Dr.Derrick, thesportsdoctor.com, where you can find all the latest content, and you can also follow us on our social media channels. Now, let's get into this episode. Welcome back to another episode of Time Out with the Sports Doctor podcast. And I'm very excited to have you back here for another week. And it's just us today, no guest. We're just going to talk for a little bit. It's been a while since I've come on to just share some of my thoughts with you and just to be able to connect. I wanted to first start off by giving a shout out to Frederick Nettles. You've heard of Frederick here. He is the CEO and owner of the Segment Live. He's been on this podcast before. We've worked together and collaborated on several projects in the past. He gave me my first live speaking engagement about 3 years ago as part of a panel discussion. One of my first, not my first, but he gave me one of my first live speaking engagements since I started the podcast, at least, about 3 years ago when we spoke at the Boys and Girls Club in Oxford, Mississippi, as part of a production that he was putting on. So since then, Frederick has gone on to graduate from Southern Studies at the University of Mississippi and has recently been accepted to the Media, Health, and Medicine program, master's program at Harvard University School of Medicine. So shout out to Frederick. He will be transitioning over the next couple of months and starting in the fall. So congratulations to you. And that's one thing I do want to start to use this platform more to highlight the works of other individuals and other companies, especially companies that I've worked with on this podcast. And one of the new companies that I'm working with currently is Doc2Doc Lending. If you have not listened to the last episode, go back and listen to it with Dr. Zwade Marshall, where we share his story as a physician, as an entrepreneur, and how he and the path that led him to becoming an entrepreneur and starting his own lending company by doctors and for doctors. Very interesting work that he's doing. We're very happy to work with him and his company to spread the word about his company, number one, but also for financial literacy, which we know is something that as many physicians, especially first generation professionals, we lack in knowledge of financial literacy. And I think that knowledge is first and foremost important to be able to help you find freedom financially, to help you rid yourself of debt, to help you break some generational curses, maybe even over your family. So we will be working with their company over the next couple of weeks, coming up with bringing back Money Mondays for you as an educational platform for this podcast. We're also going to do a live webinar where you will be able to do Q&A. It's going to be targeting medical students transitioning as well as people transitioning from residency training into their practice. So stay tuned for that. It will be coming to you over the next month or so. But Money Mondays is back in collaboration with Doc2Doc Lending. Now, today I want to talk to you about an experience that I had a little over 2 months ago. I had the opportunity to attend the Momentum Conference where Dr. Eric Thomas was speaking. As part of the Next Level Speakers Academy, which I'm a part of, I had the opportunity to do a ride-along with Dr. Thomas. Needless to say, this was very special. I had intentions of sharing this with you immediately after I went to the event. However, I didn't want it to just come across as, hey, look at me, I'm with Dr. Eric Thomas, clap for me, right? I wanted it to be more of, this is what I learned and I want to share it with you. And I can say that very few days have gone by over the last 2 months or so that I have not reflected on something that I heard during his speech or from the 15 or 20 minutes that I had to be able to actually sit down and connect with him after his speech. What would you pay for that? If you had the ability to sit down with the person who is the leader in your field, no matter what it is, and actually be able to pick their brain for 10, 15 minutes, to be able to ask questions and get a response. What is that worth? It's hard to really put a value on it, but I had that opportunity. And I really want to just share some of the takeaways that I got from not only being able to interact with him, but also from some of the things that he shared on that day. So many of us, especially in this community, we're very driven. We've already achieved what the world might deem a success, but we're still hungry and searching for more. But do we really know exactly what we're searching for when we say we want to be the best? Do we really know who the standard is that we're being judged by? Because no matter what your field is or what your specialty is, there's someone who is considered the standard and you're being judged by that. Many times I'll say it's hard to win the game if you don't know exactly what game you're playing. And there's a game and there is rules and regulations that many of us are not privy to until you play that game for a while. Many times when you don't know the rules, it's hard to become successful in that field. It's hard to be able to meet the marks that you have to do to be promoted or to be able to go on to the next level. So being able to understand and really identify who the standard is important. So as a speaker, Dr. Eric Thomas is the standard. He is the number one motivational speaker in the world. So in order to be able to become the number one person in whatever your field may be, you have to first identify who that standard is. So as he mentioned in his speech, so if you want to be the best, you're going to have to take it, because the person who's already number one probably is not just going to step aside and say, I'm tired of being the best in the world. I want somebody else to be better than me. So you have to take it. In order to be able to take it, a couple of things need to be done. First, you have to learn or identify who the standard is. Once you identify who the standard is, then you're going to have to achieve or meet the standard. You have to be just as good or better than them. And then after that, you're going to have to change the game, right? Be able to exceed the standard and then redefine the standard. So we'll just start off first with learning or identifying the standard. So we're talking about public speaking now. We're talking about motivational speaking, but this applies to whatever. You know, if you want to be the starting quarterback, if you want to be the leader of your department, if you want to be the president of your class, right? You're going to have to compete, and you're going to have to figure out exactly who the standard is. You're going to need to identify who this standard is before you can really exceed whoever it is. So one thing I like to say is that the standard is the standard. Your best is not the standard. Whatever you're currently doing is probably not the standard, but the standard is the standard. And I think from the law of comparison, I'm guilty of this. Many times in my life, I've compared myself to those around me who are not the standard, right? They're just who in your close circle, who people that you might look up to, or people who are in your close friend circle, and they might not be living up to the standard either. So that's why choosing your circle, especially your inner circle, is so important, because after a while, you'll compare yourself to the people that you're around. And if you're the smartest or the brightest or appear to be doing the best, that can sometimes halt your progress. So be careful who you're surrounding yourself with, because when you compare yourself, if you're already doing better, that could keep you from working hard to do whatever you need to achieve to truly be the best. Are you a young physician who's frustrated in figuring out how you're going to continue to fund yourself through this early phase of your career? Are you tired of speaking to lenders who do not understand your plight? We have a solution for you. Let me introduce you to Doc2Doc Lending.
Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Zawadi Marshall, co-founder, CEO of Doc2Doc Lending. We are the exclusive lending partner for physicians and dentists in the United States. We underwrite our loans thoughtfully, knowing the physician journey and your career trajectory. We're a company that's been founded by doctors and built for doctors because we get it. Banks don't understand all the ways in which we struggle through educational debt, consumer debt, as we're trying to make ends meet during a very challenging time of our lives. Doc2Doc is underwritten with thoughtful process that's meant to give you credit for all the unique physician characteristics that you have, like being board certified, having a dual degree, undergoing and finishing a specialty or a fellowship as well, and just being employed as a physician. All of those things give you credit to get your interest rate lower with our platform.
So we are glad to partner with Doc2Doc Lending. So if you are stuck trying to figure out where you can get funding or where you can continue to support your family, During this time of transition in your career, we offer you a solution. Doc2Doc Lending, physician-owned, understands your plight, understands what it's like to be an early physician or a physician who wants to do something outside of medicine. Check out Doc2Doc Lending. This segment is a paid advertisement for Doc2Doc Lending, Inc. Loans are made available by DR Bank, member FDIC, and are subject to credit approval and available in approved states only. Representative APRs for Doc2Doc range from 9.99% to 26.99%. Terms and conditions available at Doc2DocLending.com. So just know that currently what you're doing is not the standard. It might be your best, but it might not be the standard that everyone else is being held to. So in order to become the best, you're going to have to do more, you're going to have to be better, and you're going to have to be different. And I think many times we are willing to do more. We might even be willing to do it better, but are we really willing to do it differently or to be different? And especially as a minority in a field where I'm the far minority with making up less than 2% of orthopedic surgeons. And then you take that and you say, okay, on top of being an orthopedic surgeon, I want to be a podcaster, I want to be an entrepreneur, and I want to be a speaker. Now, I don't know what percentage that is, but it is by far the minority of people doing what I want to do. Now going into almost my fourth year of podcasting, I don't know many people that are doing that in my field. I don't know many people that are being an entrepreneur on top of running a full medical practice. So I have to be comfortable with being different. If I'm not comfortable with being different, then I'm going to really struggle in what I'm doing. And being different many times is that secret sauce. It can be your weapon to be able to achieve success because it's what the world or the industry needs. You're being able to fill that gap. But many times it's not really comfortable to be different. So if you want to be the best, you're going to have to be different. And you're going to have to try different things that are not already being done to be able to achieve that number one ranking. So that's one takeaway for sure. So we already talked about learning who the standard is or identifying the standard. Once you identify that standard, you're going to have to at least get to that level where they are. So you're going to have to meet the standard, right? Or achieve the standard. How do you do that? You can do that by studying them, by getting more education, by actually meeting that person, having a Q&A with them, being able to start to tap into their inner circle to see what are they doing? What systems do they have in place to be able to achieve that level of success? And many times they're not doing it alone. So once you've been able to meet that standard, then in order to be the best, to achieve number one, you have to exceed that standard. Exceeding that standard is something, who knows, you might never get to it, or it could take years, it might take days, but it's probably going to take the long run. And it's probably going to be you showing up doing imperfect work. Right. So when I started this podcast in 2021, I was so focused on just trying to get through an episode, to produce an episode, to make sure that it was no glitches, to make sure I didn't sit down and interview someone and didn't hit record. I was concentrating on so many things. How was I going to be the best? In order to be the best, I feel like many times you have to build a team around you so that you're not concentrating on everything. You have your zone of genius that you're working in. I have the privilege of teaching other doctors how to perform surgery, which is almost mind-blowing to me. But I can take someone who is a novice and within 3 months, pretty much teach them how to do some of the most difficult surgical procedures in sports medicine. Now, how do I do that? Is by breaking it down into small things. Now, the first time that I work with a resident and they have the arthroscope in their hand, you can tell that they're focusing on everything. Where I might be focusing on one or two things in a procedure, they have to focus on every little thing. Where's my hand placement? Where's the camera? Where's the light? Is the water on? Is suction on? Why is it bleeding? How do I stop the bleeding? When I'm able to do a procedure, many of those things are kind of second nature. So I focus on certain things. And I think as you become more experienced, as you get more hours of practice in, you will be able to focus on what's important and not on everything. And I think once you're able to do that through experience or through coaching or through mentorship, you're going to be able to exceed that standard, to be able to say, okay, I see this is what really matters. Not everything else. They want me to really be good at 2 things, not 10 things. So that's one thing that I really had as a takeaway. You really have to be able to be laser focused on what your goal is, laser focused on your why. What brings you back? What do people really need from you? There's 1 or 2 things that you can do better than anybody else in the world, better than anybody else in your group. When you really are able to focus on that, I think that's when you will achieve the greatest amount of success that you can achieve. So, first, you have to identify or learn who the standard is, what the standard is. When you learn what the standard is, then you have to at least meet the standard or achieve the standard. Once you have met or achieved the standard, then you exceed the standard and then you redefine the game. And that's what really sets you apart. Being able to have this podcast, being able to sit down and connect with other CEOs have really helped shift my mind to be able to attack things differently, to be able to have fewer limits in my mind on what I can achieve. So that's why connecting with people who are like-minded, not always just surrounding yourself with people that say, how in the world are you going to do that? You want people to say, yeah, that's achievable. And this is how it can be done. So thank you for being a part of this podcast community. My intention is to allow you to walk away with something from each episode. It's not just here to tell stories. It's not just here to share information. It's here for you to be able to grab something, to be able to change your life and to be able to become a better person. And what are you trying to be the best at? Are you trying to be the best father? Are you trying to be the best husband? Are you trying to be the best physician, the best athlete, the best entrepreneur? It's hard to be the best everything. Wow. So that might be for, when I'm talking here, many times I'm talking to myself and you have the opportunity to hear my inner thoughts, but it's hard to be the best at everything. But as a high achiever, many times we want to be the best across the board. And sometimes things will suffer in one category or the other. So hopefully this was helpful to someone. Give me feedback, especially about as we start this Money Mondays. I want to know money topics that you want to hear about, especially in the lending process. Maybe if you're a lender, many times we're our borrowers, especially in the medical profession. But what questions do you have so this information will be as helpful as possible? Please give me feedback. Stay tuned for more things that are coming down the pike with this podcast. Thank you for continuing to be here. Be blessed. Have a great week. Thank you for continuing to support this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, then please leave a 5-star review. And if you haven't done so, subscribe so you continue to get the updated episodes. Until later, peace.
Hey, time out with the sports doctor. Keep our head right in the game. We ain't never stopping. You are now tuned in. Trust you don't want to miss. This is where life, sports, and medicine